his apartment. He didn't play because he expected to win. He played for the $2 fantasy that lasted the walk home. The weight of the years as Greg entered his late 60s. The years of climbing ladders and pulling heavy cable caught up. He retired, his pension barely covering the rising rent. He relied on Social Security and the occasional handyman gig to keep the lights on and help his grown children, who were now struggling themselves in an ever more expensive city. His wife Maria, the fiery, loving center of his world, passed away 5 years ago, leaving a hole in his chest he'd never managed to patch. The days were long now, filled with watching reruns and feeding the pigeons in Claremont Park. His life had been one of integrity and hard work, but the simple, painful truth was that he was just scraping by right up to the end. He was tired, bone-deep tired, and the specter of serious illness was starting to whisper in the quiet corners of his mind. The $2 miracle on a cold Tuesday in late November. Greg shuffled into Junior's Deli for his usual ticket. He used his usual numbers, a mashup of birthdays and Maria's favorite date, July 4th. He tucked the slip into the worn leather wallet he'd carried since the Reagan administration. 2 days later, he was sitting at his kitchen table sipping instant coffee, while the local news anchor delivered the Powerball numbers. He wasn't even really paying attention until the numbers registered, $174 million. He pulled out the ticket, his hands shaking so badly he had to pin it against the table. Every single number matched. At first, he thought it was a cruel joke of his deteriorating vision. He fumbled for his reading glasses. He checked again, then again. A slow, agonizing warmth spread through his chest, not of joy, but of a profound, disorienting relief. The sunset Greg didn't buy a yacht or a mansion. He cashed the ticket, took the lump sum, and the first thing he did was pay off the mortgages for both of his kids, securing their families' futures with a single stroke of the pen. He established a modest anonymous scholarship fund at the Bronx Community College. He moved out of the old walk-up into a small area apartment with an elevator and a view of the Hudson River. He didn't live long, just another 18 months. But those 18 months were the best he'd ever known. He hired a full-time, round-the-clock nurse, sparing his children the strain of caregiving. He spent his final Christmas in the apartment with his kids and his grandkids, a fully decorated tree twinkling in the window. He was financially secure, comfortable, and finally, completely free of the anxiety that had been his lifelong companion. His last months weren't about luxury, they were about peace. Greg O'Malley, the man who struggled his whole life, had finally won his own private lottery. He got to leave this world, knowing he had solved his family's problems and secured his own dignity right up to his last breath. He didn't get a full life of ease, but he got a perfect ending.